Everyone assumed she was just another mechanic until the jet answered her command. And in that split second, the entire airbase froze. They hadn't even finished laughing before the F-22's control surfaces twitched like a waking predator, its systems humming to life at the sound of her voice. What began as a casual morning on the tarmac instantly warped into a moment thick with suspicion, awe, and danger. And Maya Lane, quiet, grease-stained, and invisible to them moments before, suddenly stood at the center of a storm she never asked for. Before I tell you what happened next, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I love knowing who's listening. For months, no one had truly noticed her. She blended into the hangars like she belonged to the shadows, the new tech assistant, the temporary transfer, the woman who worked too hard, stayed too late, and spoke too little. If anyone wondered how she knew her way around systems she'd technically never been trained for, they didn't say it aloud. Not yet. But that morning, the tension had already started simmering hours before the jet stirred. The air felt off, too still, too heavy, the kind of stillness that arrives before a thunderstorm. Pilots lingered outside the briefing room with restless energy. Crew chiefs snapped at even minor mistakes. Even the base dogs seemed uneasy, pacing the fence line as if sensing something in the wind. And at the center of all that unease was Maya, carrying a small tablet and a coil of cables. Trying to steady her breathing, she'd promised herself she'd keep a low profile. No one needed to know why she was really there, or what she'd done before transferring, especially not Captain Rhodes, the pilot everyone admired, feared, or both, depending on who you asked. He approached her with that half-smile he used when he wanted to test someone. "Hey, Lane," he'd said, leaning against the nose gear of the F-22, "you sure you don't want to stick to changing oil filters? These systems might be a little above your clearance." The other pilots chuckled. It wasn't cruel, not intentionally, but it hit her harder than they knew. She tried to brush past him. "Sir, I'm just running diagnostics, that's all." A dash double quotes. Rhodes tapped the side of the jet. "Tell you what, give it a command. If it responds, maybe I'll believe you know what you're doing." She froze. "Sir, that's not necessary." But he prodded again, smirking, and the others waited for a joke, for her to stumble, blush, and move on. She swallowed hard. Her throat felt tight, and a familiar pulse began pounding behind her temples. Against her better judgment, against everything she had sworn she wouldn't reveal, she let instinct take over. She lifted her chin and said, quietly but clearly, "Raptor 1, wake systems, standby mode." And that was when the jet moved. Gasps shot through the hangar. One pilot dropped his coffee. Another whispered, "No way, that's impossible." Crew members rushed forward, voices rising, boots pounding against concrete. Maya's pulse spiked. She took a step back as the F-22 emitted a low, unmistakable hum, the kind reserved for authorized voice interfaces. Interfaces she should not have had access to. Interfaces only a handful of elite test operators were ever cleared to use. Them. And her. She thought she'd left that life behind. She was wrong. Captain Rhodes stared at her, all humor drained from his face. "Lane, what did you just do?" She couldn't speak, couldn't breathe, couldn't explain without opening the door she had spent years trying to close. Before she could form an answer, a second voice cut through the chaos, sharp, commanding, and impossible to ignore. Everyone stepped back from the aircraft. Now, Colonel Soren Hale, the kind of man who carried authority like a second spine, strode into the hangar. His arrival sent murmurs rippling through the crew. People moved out of his path instinctively, like grass bending in the wind. His eyes locked onto Maya with unsettling precision. "Lane, with me." Those 3 words weren't a request. Outside the hangar, dust swirled across the pavement, whipped by the downdraft of a parked helicopter. The noise beat against Maya's skull. Every instinct, every memory she'd buried, clawed its way back to the surface. Hale led her toward the operations building, his silence more terrifying than any explosion. When he finally spoke, it felt like the world held its breath. "That aircraft should not respond to you," he said. "But it did, exactly like the classified trial models you had access to." Maya swallowed, her voice barely holding steady. "Sir, I only spoke a startup command, and the plane obeyed." Hale stopped walking and turned to face her. "Why?" Her hands trembled. She clenched them behind her back to hide it. But Hale noticed everything. "I didn't think it would," she whispered. "I haven't used those protocols in years. There it was, the truth, or just enough of it. But Hale wasn't done. Lane, what were you before you came here? Her mind flashed with images she never wanted to revisit. The test facility, the coded sequences, the classified project that had pushed her until she had nothing left to give. The accident, the reports, the guilt. I was part of the voice adaptive control team. She finally said, one of the original operators. But I resigned. I needed out. Hale's jaw tightened. You don't get to resign from programs. Like that. Not completely. A chill crept up her spine. She whispered, Sir, what happens now? But before he could answer, the base alarm shattered the air. A klaxon wail, a rush of footsteps, a voice yelling, unauthorized drone breach. North perimeter. Within seconds, soldiers flooded the yard like a coordinated wave, rifles lifted, vehicles roaring to life. Tension snapped across the base like lightning. Hale's expression sharpened. Stay here. But Maya didn't listen. Something inside her, the part she'd tried so hard to suffocate, surged awake. She felt the shift in the air, the rising intensity, the electric thrum of imminent threat. And she knew something Hale didn't. Those drones weren't random. They were searching for something or someone. Rhodes sprinted toward the F-22, shouting orders. The ground vibrated beneath them from the thundering footsteps of personnel, racing into defensive positions. Neighborhood homes just beyond the fence. Line flickered with lights as civilians stepped onto porches, whispering to one another, sensing danger but unable to see the cause. Maya watched it all unfold and felt a hard truth settle in her chest. This was her fault, and if she didn't act, people would get hurt. She stepped toward the hangar doors and stopped when Hale grabbed her shoulder. Lane, where are you going? She met his eyes, fear written clearly across her face, but something strong arising. Beneath it, I can stop them, but you have to trust me. His grip tightened. For a moment, he warred with the risk, the rules, the moral weight of letting someone he didn't fully understand take action. It wasn't protocol. It wasn't logical. It wasn't safe. But then a drone detonated against the far fence, sending a blast of dirt skyward and a shockwave through the base. Hale made his choice. Go, Maya ran. She sprinted through the hangar, grabbed the headset from the diagnostics cart, and stopped in front of the F-22. Rhodes watched her with wild disbelief. Lane, what are you doing? Keeping all of you alive. She placed her palm on the jet's fuselage. A deep breath steadied her shaking voice. Raptor 1, she whispered. Engage defensive override. Lock onto incoming drones. The aircraft responded instantly. A roar ripped through the air as its systems ignited, lights flaring like a beast unleashed. The hangar crew stumbled back as the jet rolled itself toward the runway under automated control. Guided by the voice of the one operator it still recognized, soldiers stared. Civilians near the fence gasped. Even Hale, hardened by decades of command, looked shaken by the raw precision of it. The jet accelerated, lightning streaking across steel, and lifted into the sky. Maya watched it climb, heart hammering, whispering commands through the headset with a steadiness she didn't know she still possessed. The drones swarmed, black specks slicing across the morning horizon, and the F-22 met them head-on. What followed was swift, breathtaking, and terrifying. A blur of motion, burning trails, and precise intercepts. One by one, the drones fell, fiery blooms dissolving into plumes of smoke. And when the last one was gone, silence rolled over the base like a heavy exhale. When the jet returned and settled onto the tarmac, no one moved. Not until Maya lowered the headset, tears burning in her eyes. Rhodes stepped forward first, voice soft with awe. Lane, you saved us. The crew followed, gathering around her, murmuring, shaken, grateful, humbled. Even Hale stood among them, his voice steady but gentler than before. Seems you weren't here to hide, he said quietly. You were here to heal. And today, you helped all of us. For the first time in years, Maya let herself breathe. She wasn't a ghost of a former operator anymore. She wasn't running. She wasn't hiding. She had found a place where her past didn't make her dangerous. It made her needed. Because courage doesn't fade. It waits for the moment you're ready to use it again. And sometimes, all it takes is a single command to awaken who you were always meant to be. Thank you for listening. If this story moved you, share your thoughts in the comments and subscribe for more stories just like this.